Hello attendees, my name is Vishal and I welcome you all to this live session by Great Learning. In today's session, we would be talking about AWS and would understand how do you get started with AWS, what are the things you should learn and what are the things that you should look into. But before we move any further, I need a quick confirmation from you people if I'm audible to you guys or not. If yes, then quickly say yes in the chat box and we can move further. I would like to inform you that the stream runs 10 seconds late for you people. The reason for that is we stream it using YouTube. So whatever I say reaches 10 seconds late to you people. So meanwhile, you put in your replies in the chat saying if I'm audible to you guys or not. And once I get a confirmation, we can get started. I would like to also inform you that at Great Learning, we have come up with Great Learning Academy initiative where there are 80 plus free courses that you people can register to, and on completion of these courses you'll be getting a certification that you can add to your LinkedIn profile, to your resume, and that would hold a lot of value for you people. So ensure you register to Great Learning Academy and reap the benefits of free courses that are there. Okay, let me see if there's a confirmation in the chat saying yes. Okay, yes, I see people typing yes. So there are quite a few of you who've said yes. Mudita says yes, Harshita says yes, Avinash says yes, Mansi says yes. So yep, that's great guys. Let's go ahead, get started. Let's understand what Amazon Web Services is. So let me quickly give you an idea as to what are we going to talk about precisely in this session. So let's start off by understanding why cloud computing, what it is, right? We'll talk about different cloud service providers that are there in the market. We'll discuss what is AWS. Then we'll talk about its infrastructure in brief, and then I'll just go ahead and walk you through the core services, and we'll walk through the demo part with the Amazon Management Console, and we'll pick up a service there and see how that particular service works. Which service? Well, I haven't decided that. So once we move into Amazon Web Services, we have like 200 plus services that we can look into. I'll pick one of those services and we can just see how that service works. So I believe this agenda is fairly straightforward and I assume that it is clear to you people. So let us go ahead and understand why cloud computing. So guys, if you've attended my previous sessions, this would be more of a revision to you people, the introduction part. So let's quickly see why do we need cloud computing, right? So guys, if you talk about cloud computing, I always state an example that takes like or goes back to like 10 years from now, right, where cloud computing was not that prevalent and its usage again was little different. Why? Because if you go back like 10 years, 15 years from now, technology was very different. The way we handle data was very different, and that is why I want to go into that precursor era and try and understand how businesses used to work. And when I say businesses, I'm talking about application hosting, application development, and stuff like that. So back in those days, in order to host a particular business, a particular application, we needed certain set of services. One of that was, first of all, we had to go ahead and ensure that our setup is in place. Okay, so we had to set up an infrastructure. So when you say an infrastructure, when you talk about applications in particular, we are talking about servers, right? Computation capacity, storage capacity where you can store your data, and computation capacity where you can process this data, right? To do these kind of activities, we actually needed servers. So when I say servers are something that let you host these applications. And let me tell you, servers are very costly today as well. If you go back like 15 years from now, they were very costlier than what they are today. So in those days, buying a stack of servers was a rich affair, a wealthy affair. You needed to have a lot of money. Okay, and there were other issues with it, right? Since you are setting up a server, you needed to take care of quite a few activities like taking care of the cooling part, taking care of the bug fixing part, taking care of constant updates, right? So to do all these things, you also needed people who were technically adept. What that means is, again, if you go back a decade from now, we did not have employees who were skilled enough to do all these things. I'm not saying that there were no employees who used to do these things, but the people who could do these things were lesser, and that is why these people charged us a lot more. And hence we had to invest a lot of money in servers, in setup, and we also had to invest a lot of money in people who could maintain and monitor these things. So these were some of the problems. To list them down, right, we had to invest heavily in setup, invest in resources, something that we've already talked about. And the other part that was very crucial here was scalability. So guys, when you say scalability, it is the ability of your resources, your applications, to deal with the increasing or varying amount of traffic or data. To give you an example, let's assume that you try to order a particular thing, maybe from something like Amazon or your Flipkart, right? What do you do in that case, right? These are your e-commerce websites. So you would go ahead and purchase or put forth an order and wait for the delivery to happen. Now there are sales, right, with these online websites. Say for example, in India we celebrate Diwali, so there's so many people wanting to buy clothes, wanting to buy stuff, right, because it's auspicious. So many people are throwing in their requests to buy these things. Now when you talk about putting in these many requests, and when you're talking about a country like India where there are billions or a billion people, right, so in this case, when people put forth these requests for these purchases that they do, imagine the load these applications or these websites experience. It is humongous, and that is why your application or your website should be able to scale up to the increasing requirements. And when the requests or the requirements goes down, it should again be able to scale down. That means it should be able to adjust its resource requirements accordingly. But then if you talk about on-premise infrastructure or infrastructure that existed before cloud computing came into picture, now these were very stiff infrastructures. You could not just go ahead and say, okay, I need 2 petabytes of storage, just attach it to this particular so-called infrastructure. You could not do that. Why? Because your technology was not that good. One, I don't blame the technology. What I mean is, you had that kind of hardware where you just could not go ahead and add more storage capacity, more computation capacity. You had to set in processes to do that. Again, it was time consuming, it was money consuming, cost consuming as well, and these were the problems that were there. And as you've already guessed, or I assume that you must have guessed, cloud computing helped you solve all these problems. Let's see how did cloud computing chip in here. Okay, before that, let me see if there are any questions that need answering. Okay, Kathir well says wonderful AWS session. I'm glad, Kathir, you like it. Meanwhile, let me scroll up and see if there are other questions that need answering for. Great learning. Hello, says Kashyap Pandu. Welcome to the session, Kashyap. Priyadarshi says it's a wonderful session. Glad you like it, Priyadarshi. Yes, server purchasing cost is high. And okay, so Kathir is responding to the stuff that we've been discussing. Glad, Kathir, you are attentive. So guys, again, let your questions keep coming. If you have questions, if you have doubts, I'll be more than glad to take your questions, and I'd be more than happy to answer those questions for you. So make sure you keep your questions coming. Okay, so let us now go ahead and discuss some of the other pointers. Meanwhile, if your questions come in, I'll also take those. Do not worry, I'll be taking a question in patches, so we'll cover a couple of topics and then I'll take the remaining questions that you people have. Okay, so do not worry. So guys, how did cloud computing solve this problem? Okay, so cloud computing, as I've discussed in my previous sessions, it is very similar to how electricity is consumed. So what we do with electricity is we consume electricity in n amounts, right? So what we do at the end of the month is whatever units of electricity we've consumed, we pay for the units of electricity that we've consumed. So we never worry about who supplies this electricity to a home. How do they supply this electricity to a home, and who maintains it, right? Because it is the board's job to take care of all these things. So they're basically maintaining the electricity supply to our homes, and we pay them in units. Say for example, if I consume 100 units, I'll be paying 100 into X rupees, or the currency that I'm using, right, to pay my bill for the electricity. So when you talk about cloud computing, it is similar to this. What cloud computing does for you is it gives you on-demand services. That means what cloud service providers say is, you want to host your application, tell us what your requirement is. Do you need a storage place? Do you need computation power? Do you need other applications that you want to run? Just give us the requirement. We'll configure those things for you. You can start putting forth your data and application on top of it and start using it. We'll maintain and monitor the infrastructure for you, and we'll also give you these resources on rental basis. You don't have to buy it and pay a lot of money. Since you can rent these, you can decide, okay, you want to use these resources for n duration, so you can use it for that n duration, and once you're done using it, you can release these resources and we would stop charging you. So that is what cloud computing does for you. Apart from that, they also ensure that your resources can scale up and scale down instantly. So all the issues that we discussed have been solved here. You don't have to pre-plan. You don't have to worry about paying a lot of people to maintain and monitor your infrastructure. You don't have to worry about buying these stack of servers, right? And you, again, as I've mentioned, you don't have to sit and plan these things to be able to scale up or scale down accordingly, right? Because these things happen instantly with cloud computing, and that is how cloud computing solves a problem. Okay, so when you talk about cloud computing, there are quite a few popular service providers in the market that provide these services, right? To name a few, you have your Amazon Web Services, you have your Google Cloud, you have Microsoft Azure, IBM Cloud, and then you have certain other service providers as well. Say for example, Salesforce provides software as a service, which is a part of cloud offering, right? So there are quite a few cloud providers that are there in the market, and these cloud service providers give you these cloud computing services that we just discussed. So let's try and understand these service providers. So when you talk about these service providers that are there in the market, right, the topmost right now is Amazon Web Services with the highest market share. So it's like somewhere around 30 plus % of market share when you talk about public cloud domains. If you talk about Microsoft Azure, it is second in the race. Google Cloud Platform lies third here. IBM falls little isolated because it has other kind of offerings as well. But when you talk about these service providers, these are the leaders in the market. Amazon Web Services having the highest share, and followed by Microsoft Azure and Google Cloud Platform. If we talk about Amazon Web Services, it also serves in a lot more countries and provides a lot more services. So guys, there are quite a few questions here. I normally get these questions where people ask, what is the difference between AWS versus Azure versus GCP? And I'm sure there would be questions this time around as well. So let me see if there are any questions that are similar, right? And if so, I'll answer that quickly and then we can move to the next one. There you go. Kathir well says AWS versus Google Cloud, which is the best, sir? Okay, so Kathir, when you say which cloud service provider is the best, again, it depends on quite a few factors, right? What do you want to do with your cloud, right? So if you talk about dealing with DevOps support, now this is where Google Cloud Platform is much better than Amazon Web Services. If your main concern is having database setup on your AWS, in that case Amazon Web Services is better than Google Cloud Platform, Microsoft Azure, because Amazon Web Services gives you more options when it comes to choosing your database instances. That is not the option that you get with Google Cloud. So again, it would depend, right? What do you want to use this cloud platform for? And depending on that, you would be able to choose a particular platform. Okay, I'm not able to get the PDF, says Kathir. Kathir, the PDF link would be shared. Register there, and I'm sure there would be an option for you to download that particular PDF. If it still does not work, you may try it after a while, and I'm sure you'll get access to this PDF there and then. Okay. Bestling says it's great you are providing such a knowledgeable content for free. Thank you, Bestlinks. It is helpful for biology students, asks Harshita. For biological research you can use cloud computing to some extent, but right now whatever we are discussing in this session, this could be a little off topic for you, but I would suggest stay tuned because we would be talking about cloud computing, and if you're interested in that, I'm sure this would be helpful for you. Okay, it says already registered. When will I get the PDF? Kathir, when you register there and if you open the page, right, there would be a download option for you. If not, we'll try and fix it for you. Do not worry. We normally put forth all our PDFs so that our users can access it, and this one would be made available to you as well. Okay. Okay, so guys, the questions have been answered. Let me now go ahead and discuss some of the other pointers, right? So let's now talk what AWS is. Let's try and understand what AWS is. Once we have a clearer understanding of AWS, then we can go ahead and talk about other things as well, right? We then go ahead and see how the demo works and stuff like that. So first of all, what AWS is. So again, guys, I've already mentioned it is a major cloud service provider that gives you on-demand cloud computing services, and it serves, or it provides, like 250 plus different services, right? So be it your computation, be it your storage, be it your networking, right? All these kind of services are provided by AWS. There are other services as well, like your DevOps, machine learning, data science, big data, IoT. You can practice these things on top of cloud as well. So the possibilities are many. And when you talk about AWS, the reason it is one of the leading platforms is it gives you options, diversity when it comes to choosing different services. Apart from that, it is a feature-packed platform. If you talk about its reach, it serves in 245 plus countries. So we'll be talking about the global infrastructure of AWS as we move further, right? So some of these pointers would make a lot more sense to you people, but for now I'm just trying to give you a picture as to when you talk about AWS, it has a very high reach, provides many services, and serves quite a few purposes. What kind of platform it is and what kind of features it gives you? It's highly cost effective and gives you pay as you go model. That means when you talk about AWS, if you use a particular resource for particular duration, you'll be charged only for that duration. This is something also known as metered usage. The other term for this is pay as you go. Okay, so when you talk about pay as you go models, there are different packages that AWS offers, right? You can use these services, say for example, on per minute basis as well. There are certain services that would be charged on per minute basis. So if you use a resource for like 3 minutes, you'll be charged only for 3 minutes. Certain resources are on hourly basis as well, where you cannot cut it down to a per minute payment. So that is why you would be using those resources for like 3 hours and you'll be charged only for that 3 hours going ahead. Okay, again, you can scale up, scale down to meet your needs. It scales up vertically and horizontally both, right? So you get those benefits of both vertical and horizontal scaling. It is highly secure, gives you 24/7 manned security at the data centers. Not everybody knows where these data centers are located, so you cannot just walk in and say, okay, there's a data center in Mumbai, so I'll go to Mumbai and I'll know, okay, this is where AWS data center is, and I can just walk in, I can just barge into that data center. That is something that does not happen. There are very few officials who know the exact location of a data center in that particular region. Okay, so this is how they maintain the physical security of your servers, your resources. If we talk about the network security, you have quite a few things that you can control, whether you talk about controlling the access of who gets to access which resource, right? Whether you talk about securing your data with firewalls, securing your data with encryption over the network, right? So all these things are controlled, or you have resources that can help you control these accesses using Amazon Web Services. Apart from that, if you talk about its availability, that means if I'm putting forth my data here, would my data be always available to me? That means let's assume that I'm looking for a particular article. If I search for that article and if I click on that website, would that website 24/7 throughout the year serve me that article? This is something is called as availability. Are the servers that AWS is providing you available 24/7 throughout the year? Well, when you talk about AWS, it gives you a very high availability. It's 99.99% availability. That means even if the data center goes down in a year to the max, it will go down for like 20-25 minutes to the max. Okay, so that is a very less downtime, and this is if it happens, else you would never experience downtime. Flexible, when you get an option of choosing from 250 plus services and 200 plus regions, that in itself tells you how many options you have, right? And how flexible a platform is. So guys, let us go ahead now and understand the global infrastructure of AWS and see how it functions. Okay, let me meanwhile see if there are any questions that need answering. Harshita says, okay, thanks, I will, by the way, OSM the session. okay, I already liked it. Glad, Harshita, you like it. Everyone, guys, if you like what you see, make sure you leave a like for this video, right? That means a lot to us, because that way we can actually go ahead and decide and gauge whether we should go ahead and have such sessions for you people. So if you like what you see, make sure you leave a like for this video so that we can come up with such sessions for you people. And stay tuned, we are gonna go ahead and get into the demo part as well, so do not leave, right? So let's go ahead and first understand the global infrastructure, right? Before that, I see there's a question by Abdul. Abdul says, how to convert AWS to business? Abdul, that's a very surface level question that you've asked. So when you say how to convert AWS to business, what are you trying to ask exactly? I mean, could you be more specific, giving me some idea as to this is what I want to ask exactly? If so, I'll be able to answer your question better. Okay, so guys, let us go ahead and understand the AWS regions and availability zones that we have with us. So to start with, first and foremost, what AWS does is it divides its data centers based on the global regions. These regions where a data center lies is called as an AWS region. Why? Because AWS has its data center. To give you an example, in Mumbai, India, we have 3 data centers, and this region is called as Mumbai region. Again, by the name is what we refer them to. Say for example, if you have your data centers, or if AWS has its data centers in North Virginia, which it does obviously, so that region is called as North Virginia AWS region. So when you say a region, it is nothing but a geographical location where your data centers lie, and inside each geographical region, depending upon the requirement and reach, there could be more than one data centers. Now these data centers are called as availability zones. So an availability zone, to start with, is nothing but a data center where you can put forth your resources. Now you might wonder, why do we need multiple availability zones? Now when you say multiple availability zones, the reason we need multiple availability zones is because if one of the data center goes down and we have our data that is backed up there, if that data center goes down, there's a possibility that we might lose out on that data, right? So in that case, if you have multiple availability zones, you can always back up your data in other availability zones. Say for example, I put forth my data in availability zone A and I back it up in availability zone B. In that case, if availability zone A goes down, availability zone B would always be available for me to use, right? Likewise guys, what we also have is local zones. Now when we back up our data, it's not always that we back up our data in multiple availability zones that lie in the same region. The reason for that is there could be data that is very mission critical or application critical. So in that case, what I want is this data to be secure. So instead of backing it up in the same availability zone or in the same region, what we do is we make a copy of the data in availability zone that is based in region 1, and we make another copy of the data in some other availability zone that is located in some other region. Say for example, you put some data in Mumbai and then back it up in North Virginia, right? So you're having data backed up in different availability zones located in different regions. Now in this case, the reason we do this is this gives us more security. Why? If you put forth your data in the availability zones that are in the same region, what if the entire region goes down? What if there's a flood? What if there's a calamity that is unavoidable? In that case, you're losing your data, right? So in that case, what people do is they back up their data in different regions. So if one of the regions also goes down, it would be backed up in other region, right? Now, why do we need local zones here? So guys, when you transfer your data in availability zones that are located inside the same region, Here's the example. Now these are the availability zones that are inside the same region, right? So if I want to move my data from availability zone 1 to 2, I can do that quickly with the low latency networks that they are connected from. But if I back up my data in different regions, the data transfer length is longer. Why? Because I'm moving data to a region that is at a farther location, right? So in this case, what happens is basically we need a zone that can move the data quickly, okay? And we basically need a network that can do this transfer quickly. So to do that, to connect two regions, we have something called as a local zone that helps us in caching the data and moving it at a faster rate, okay? So that is what an availability zone, a local zone, and an AWS region is. So guys, meanwhile I'll take a couple of questions, and post that we can go ahead and talk about some of the services that are there on our plate, okay? What is the difference between a region and an availability zone? Gayatri, I believe I have answered this question, and I hope you've answered this, understood this. So if you still have a question, do let me know. So again, to clarify it to you, a region is nothing but a geographical location where we put forth our data center, and that data center is called as availability zone. So you can have multiple availability zones inside a region, that is an AWS region. Are there any upcoming sessions on Azure Cloud and GCP, says Sean BK? Normally we plan our sessions a week in advance. So if there's an Azure session, that would be updated on Great Learning Academy, the link that is being shared to you. So register there and look for upcoming sessions. So if there's an Azure or GCP session happening next week, you would be updated there, okay? Okay, Abdul Zubair says, I'm asking, AWS is taken as a profession. Yes, Abdul, you can take AWS as a profession. So when you say you want to take AWS as a profession, you can work on these cloud platforms as a cloud architect, a cloud developer, and even as a cloud admin, right? So you can build applications here, you can basically host your websites on top of these platforms, and then you can actually have a career here as well. So you can do your business as well if you want. If you want to host your application, start something like an e-commerce website, you can do that here. If you want to actually go ahead and work here as an employee on these platforms, you can do that as well, okay? So I believe that also answers your question, okay? Let's now go ahead and understand some of the other things, right? So let's just go ahead and see what are the different services that AWS has to offer to us. So when you talk about AWS in general, it offers quite a few core service domains. So the reason I'm saying core service domains is because each of these domains has different services that are covered, okay? So if we talk about computation, these are the services that provide you with compute power to run your applications, right? So these can be Maushi दार एकदा ओढून घ्यावं नाही तुम्ही या आतमध्ये दार फक्त hey, forgive me guys. Yeah, so let's go ahead. So when you talk about these compute services, so basically these compute services are nothing but services that provide computation power, like your setting up an infrastructure for you, like your virtual machine, like instances, right? So when you talk about AWS, it provides services that let you launch instances, virtual machines if you want. If you need pre-configured infrastructure where you do not have to worry about anything that concerns maintaining and monitoring these resources, you have quite a few serverless platform as a service offerings when you talk about the compute domain. If you talk about storage, now there are storage services that deal with storing data in different files, different formats, whether you talk about storing your data in object form, file form, right, be it structured, unstructured. Your cloud platforms support these kind of storages as well. You can store your data in archival form where you don't have to access your data at a regular basis, so you can store your data in archival forms as well, which is cheaper, also known as cold storage. And then you have something called as hot storage, where you retrieve your data whenever you want without having to wait for any retrieval delay. Now these are called as hot storages, but these are costlier, right? So you get these many options when you talk about AWS when it comes to storage. In database too, you have the options of choosing what kind of database instance you want with you, right? When you talk about these instances, these can be instances that concern your SQL kind of databases, PostGRE kind of databases, be it your non-structured databases as well. So AWS gives you options to host these kind of databases. Now when you talk about networking services, these are the things that help you control the network on a virtual level. Okay, so whether you talk about setting up virtual private clouds, subnets, all these things fall under networking, and you can control those using the networking services that AWS offers. For security too, as I've mentioned, there is a lot of network security option that AWS gives you. So there are services like IAM that let you control the identity and access management part, right? There are services that let you basically encrypt, decrypt your data, that let you control your firewalls as well. So security is controlled from this perspective. Then for migration as well, it's not always that you'd be going ahead and using a cloud platform to build an application from scratch. What if you're talking about a business that is already having an application that they're hosting somewhere? In that case, it won't be wiser to just go ahead and build everything from scratch. Instead, whatever you have, can you migrate that to cloud? So there are quite a few strategies that go into these things, and there are services that let you do this. So migration services is something that control these things. Then you have your management tools. So when you say management tools, these are the resources that let you perform some management activities or monitoring activities if you want to. So these things keep working in real time and keep collecting data that you need, and you can take a look at the data as in what are the services and how are they performing. Similarly, when you talk about applications that are connected over the network, you need services that can basically communicate with each other. And to do that, you have services called as messaging services that let you communicate with other resources. For analytics, you have something called as, there are full-fledged services that control machine learning, data science, and big data applications as well. So there are other domains as well, guys, but these are some of the core domains that AWS has to offer to us. I'll take a couple of questions and then we'll jump into the AWS Management Console and see what kind of demo that we can take a look at. Okay. Can we host dynamic websites on AWS? Saurabh Srivastava asks. Yes, Saurabh, you can host dynamic websites on Amazon Web Services. That is pretty much doable. Just look at the process. So if you search for like hosting websites on AWS, you'll get all the information that concerns that particular topic. Okay, guys, let us now go ahead and just open the AWS Management Console and see if what are the things that we can do in the demo part. Okay, so guys, if there's a question, make sure you put forth that question in the chat box. Guys, I would like to inform you that if you've not registered to Great Learning Academy, do that, right? There are quite a few free courses like these that you people can learn and explore. And also, if you've not subscribed to Great Learning YouTube channel, do that. Why? Because that is where we have quite a few free courses and quite a few free sessions happening every day, quite a few videos being uploaded every day. So you can actually register to Great Learning YouTube channel and enjoy such sessions like every day. Today I would be having one more session on Power BI at 4 p.m. where we would be discussing, or we would be analyzing an old IPL data set. When I say analyzing, I would show you how to create visuals in Power BI over a data set. For that, I'd be using some 2-year-old data set, since I do not have the latest one. I'd be using an IPL data set and I would be doing some visualizations. So do join us at 4 p.m. as well, and we'll be more than happy to host you for that session too. Sir, knowledge of programming language needed for AWS, asks Rohan. It's not a mandate, but it's like knowing AWS half if you do not know programming. So if you do programming, what that would do is that would let you explore quite a few possibilities. See, if you talk about buying a particular tool, there are always two versions, right? A licensed version and a free version. So when you use a free version, it always comes with some limitations. When you buy a licensed version, you get access to all the stuff that is there. See guys, when you talk about programming, it gives you that licensed access to AWS. So you can then work with APIs, you can then work with SDKs, and then you can do so many things with AWS. Is it a mandate? No. But if you know programming, that would definitely help. I hope the analogy helps. Is business intelligence necessary to learn data science? Kashyap Pandu. Kashyap, if you've attended my previous sessions, I normally say that keep your questions specific to the topic that we have in hand. But to answer your question quickly, business intelligence will help you in data science. But please try and keep our questions as specific to cloud computing and AWS as you can. Okay. So guys, I've answered your questions that were there. Let's now quickly log into this console and see what all we can do with it. So I'm gonna just go ahead and say sign into the console. And I'm gonna say login. I'm just gonna put in my password. I tend to forget my password a lot, so hopefully we can sign in the first attempt. There you go. You see? Okay. It says your authentication information is incorrect. There you go. This was the fourth attempt that I put my data in. If it was wrong, and one more attempt, and we would have blocked this access, and unfortunately we would have lost our demo as well. Fortunately, that's not the case. So guys, these are the services. You see, this is the management console, and if you click on services, you see these are the different domains. I mentioned that in compute you have quite a few options. In storage you have some options. In storage, this is the hot storage where you can retrieve your data right away. Glacier is your cold storage where you store your archival data. EC2 is the service that lets you launch instances. So guys, accordingly, if you scroll down, you'll see there's so many services here. For machine learning, you see there's SageMaker, there's augmented AI, right? Comprehend, Kendra, Lust, Lex, you have your Poly, you have recognition, you have Textract, Transcribe. So there's so many services that are here, guys. So basically some of these are API kind of services that let you do quite a few other things, and there are certain services that let you build your application from the very scratch, and then you can put forth your machine learning model on top of it. So the services are plenty. Not just that, you have some core services as well. There's separate analytics services, and apart from that there are some security services as well. IAM is the one that I talked about, right? So services are plenty, and there are plenty of things that you can do. To give you an example, let's see what we need to do today. Okay, so guys, let's just go ahead and first see S3, the hot storage where you can store your data. Now in your free tier account, guys, this is a free tier account that I'm using. So basically I can have or access certain resources for 1 year for free in certain amounts. For example, in S3 you can store up to 5 GB of data free of cost when you're using a free tier account. Let's just go ahead and create a bucket. Now when you talk about S3, your containers, your folders are called as buckets, and you store your data in the buckets. Okay, so let's just go ahead and create a bucket. Let's call it demo. This is October week 1, right? Let's see whether it takes this name. West Oregon is the reason. Let it be. I don't want to play around with it. Next, do I want to keep my versioning? So guys, when you say versioning, what is a versioning? Versioning is nothing but the ability to keep multiple versions of a particular file. Now to give you a clear idea as to what versioning is, say for example I store a particular file and then I modify it. Okay, so what if I realize that my previous version was correct? Can I go back and access that version? If you can, that process is called as versioning, where you maintain multiple versions of your file. So let's say keep all versioning for all the objects active and say next. Bucket policy, bucket access. So who gets to access this bucket? Block all accesses to the bucket. Turning this setting on is the same as turning all 4 settings below. So let's not play with it for now, and let's say next. Let's create a bucket, and just like that guys, your bucket would be created. Okay, so you have your bucket with you, and the name of the bucket was demo oct week 1. Let's just upload a file here, and I'm gonna say select, and let me just go ahead and upload this PDF here and see whether it works. And just like when I say next, there you go, successful, the file has been uploaded. And guys, now you see the time here, it says some 12:40:39 p.m. right? So this is the time this file has been uploaded. So basically it's 40 minutes and 39 seconds past 12 in the afternoon. Let me upload one more file here, and I'm gonna upload the very same file. Okay, the reason I'm doing that is I want to show you something. This file, so the same file was uploaded, you see. So what that did was basically it basically overwritten the same file here. So the previous version was overwritten, and that is why you see the time is different. It was 40:39, this is 41:12. So can I go back and see the previous versions? If I say show, you see both versions are here. So that is what versioning does for you. When I say hide, only one version would be shown. Okay, the other things that you can do with your buckets, go to management, permissions, properties, right? See, this is where you can disable versioning as well. So you say suspend versioning, you say save, and your versioning will be disabled. So if you try to save multiple versions of your file now, it won't accept that. Okay, and if I go to management guys, there's something called as life cycle policy. So this is where basically I can decide whether I want to keep my buckets and objects in it active. Say for example, I have a paid account and where I'm being charged for every file that I save. So in that case, a hot storage or a quick retrieval storage is costlier. So it's not always wise to store all the data. What do you do in that case? So let's assume that there are certain files that you want to use for 10 days and then you want to delete it. So you can set up a life cycle policy here saying that after 10 days expire this particular object, so it will delete that object, or you can move it to a cheaper storage tier. So S3 offers different storage tiers as well. So there's this one that we are using is a frequent access tier. You can access it whenever you want. Infrequent one is something that you cannot access that frequently, and then you have Glacier, which is archival in nature. So you can transition your objects or your files into other storage tiers as well. Say for example, if you know that you're going to use this file for like 20 days regularly, so keep it in frequently accessed one. Maybe after 21 days you can say that move it to infrequent or Glacier, so that it goes there and you don't have to access it every day and you are charged lesser. Why? Because infrequent access and Glacier are cheaper compared to your S3 frequent access. Okay, so that is why you have life cycle policies. So I hope that is clear to you people. Let us now go ahead and see what else we can do. I'm going to go back to my Amazon S3 and delete this bucket to start with. So it's demo oct week 1, and where do I have the, okay, there you go. AWS does this well for you. It asks you to enter the bucket name, so you would never accidentally delete it, right? We normally say yes and no and the file gets deleted, right? So this is where AWS is little different. It would ask you for multiple prompts before it deletes a file, so that you never delete anything accidentally. Okay, and always have a habit of clearing all the resources that you've used. Okay, so guys, now let us go ahead and launch a particular instance to start with. Now this is your EC2 service where you can launch various virtual machines. I'm going to show you how to launch a virtual machine to start with. So I'm going to say launch an instance, and let's launch a Windows machine to start with. So I'm going to say select this. This is a free tier eligible one, guys. So it's a general purpose and it's a small in size virtual machine. T2 micro is its denomination. So I say add storage. No, this is where I basically go ahead and update all the network requirements. I can launch multiple instances at one go as well. If I select 3, it will launch 3 instances. Storage by default it is 30 GB. I'm gonna say next, configure, and I'm gonna say launch. It would say create a key or use existing one. I'm gonna say create sample key. Guys, key is something that lets you log into your instance. So AWS gives you a key pair. So your key pair is a public key and a private key combined. So private key is given to you and public key is something AWS uses. So when you try to sign in, both of these combine to form a key for you to sign in. Okay, now let us just go ahead and say launch an instance. So guys, it will take a couple of minutes for this instance to launch. Post that, we can go ahead and use this sample key to log in. So I'm gonna just go ahead and put my sample key in a folder so that we can access it later, right? Let's do that. Let's just go back to demo. So this is in great learning folder, so let's just go ahead and put our key here. So let our instance get launched, guys. It takes a couple of minutes for this instance to launch. So I'm gonna go back to my EC2 and wait for the instance to launch. Now it would show that running instances are 1, but it is initializing. So let us initialize first, and meanwhile let me answer your questions. Kashyap Pandu says, please accept my apologies. You don't have to apologize, Kashyap. I'm glad that you're attentive. Okay. Santosh Yadav says, I am an RF engineer. How much is AWS beneficial? AWS is good if you're looking to target networking domains, application hosting domains, right? Or some application development as well. So you can do all these things on AWS. So if you're interested in these things, yes, you can move to AWS. What programming languages should we learn to know or to work on AWS? Sri Hari, you can pick any programming language. First of all, I would say learn bash scripting. That is very important for you to communicate with your instances. The other thing that you should know is pick up any one programming language if you're interested in application building or hosting. Something like Python, Java, even PHP and stuff will also work, and then you can start your career in that domain. Okay. So Gayatri Kothavde says, so bucket is like a folder. Exactly, Gayatri. A bucket is a folder, and the file that you store in it is called as object. Okay. So the PDFs that we uploaded there were objects that we put forth in the bucket. Okay. So guys, I assume our instance should be up and ready. If that is the case, then we can launch it. Let's see whether we can connect to it. Normally it takes a minute or two. Okay, status checks, it says it's initializing. We can normally connect to an instance even when it is initializing, but let's wait for it to get initialized and then we'll connect. Okay, let's try to connect it now. Download RDP. I'm gonna say get a password now, and guys, I'm gonna choose a file that we put forth here, right? So that file was in great learning folder, I remember, and it was in basic demo, right? This was the key. So guys, always keep your key safe. It is very important you have it, because this is your only entry point to your instance. Okay, so keep it safe. Now I'm gonna come here, I'm gonna say connect. To ask for a password that we've just decrypted, I'm gonna say okay. Yes, and just like that, guys, we would be connecting to our instance. You see, it's as easy as that. So guys, within a minute we've launched a virtual machine, which is a Windows virtual machine. So it would give you a feel as if you are running another machine or operating system on top of your AWS. So that is what a virtual machine or an instance is, right? It takes half a minute to load. It has happened quicker than that. You see, it's just like our Windows machine. You see there's EC2 feedback. So this is your Microsoft instance that you've launched, and gives you like exactly the same interface. So guys, if you remember the storage, I had said that it has 30 GB of storage, right, that we've attached to this instance. Let's see if that is true. You see, this 30 GB of storage that we have with us, it's 29.9. So guys, this is what an instance looks like. You can actually go ahead and optimize these storages and do a lot of things with it. But again, in this session, this is an introductory one, so we won't be getting into the details of all those things. And as I've just mentioned, whenever we launch an instance or any resource, always have a habit of deleting those instances or resources, so that even if by accident you launch a chargeable resource, if you release it quickly, you will be charged either less or you won't be charged. So take care of these things always. Okay, so this is a good practice to have. Meanwhile guys, if you have any questions, make sure you put forth those questions in the chat box, and I'd be more than happy to take your questions. Meanwhile, I would like to inform you that at Great Learning we have come up with Great Learning Academy initiative, where there are 80 plus free courses that you people can register to, and on completion of these courses you'd be getting certifications that you can add to your LinkedIn profile, to your resume, and that would hold a lot of value for you. Okay, we've also come up with Great Learning app, which you can download from Play Store, and basically you can go ahead and run these courses, watch these courses offline and free of cost. So do that as well. Okay, so guys, I do not see any questions that you people have been asking. If there are any questions that you people need to ask, make sure you put those in the chat box, and I'd be more than happy to take your questions. So make sure you put your questions in the chat box, guys. Okay, so I'll wait for another like 5-10 seconds for you to put forth your questions. I don't see any questions coming up, so I assume whatever we've been discussing is fairly clear to you people. Where these instances are launched, Nikita Pandey, when you say where, so Nikita, basically you see, when I launched this instance, it was launched in this region. So when you say US West Oregon, this is where AWS has its data center. So that is where your instance would be hosted, and you'd get a virtual feel as if that is running on your system. Okay, so this is how cloud computing works. That's a fairly good question, but I believe that also is answered and you've got an answer to what you were looking for. Okay, so guys, any other questions apart from this? So I do not see any questions coming up yet. So guys, if there are any questions, make sure you put forth those questions, and I'd be more than happy to answer your question. Since there are no questions guys, I believe it's time we rest this session. I hope you all liked this session. If you did, make sure you leave a like and hit the subscribe button. Okay, I hope to see you all in the next session. Do join in for us to our further sessions, and I'd be more than happy to have you all there. Thank you for